You're gonna come along with me in these things I have to do, or what? Because if not, you can take your wife, your family, and your mistress. Move them all to Las Vegas.
Welcome to the Dreams of Consciousness podcast. If you would be so kind, would you mind introducing yourself?
Okay, I'm Rodolfo from Seventh. We are a post-black metal band from Italy. I would say post-black metal, but we have some shades in our music, so I think it's better to say black metal for people who go to Rock Bar, maybe for the attitude. And I would say that we are like a black metal band with post-rock elements, atmospheric stuff, prog rock stuff in general. So we mix different genres.
Would you mind telling me about the history of the band, how it formed, and what led you guys to play this kind of post-black metal music?
Okay, well, actually, the band was formed in 2006, so a long time ago, sorry, and but it was just metal project just for fun, you know. I think that we probably become the band we are now around 2014 or 15, when this lineup was, we had this lineup with the two guitar players that are in Bedsore as well. And we started to play black metal with a strong American touch. We've been always inspired by bands like Hagelock, Wolves in the Throne Room, Death Heaven, and everything experimental, but mixed with heavy stuff.
So why those bands? I mean, you said specifically American black metal. Why was that the sound that you gravitated towards?
Oh, well, I've always been fascinated by the American way of making black metal, maybe because I am and we've been always listening to rock music, and I think that the American approach is more rock, more punk than the true black metal European version, you know. So I've always been more fascinated by that kind of approach. I think that bands like Wolves in the Throne Room or the whole Cascadian scene or the New York scene has a very strong rock component in the music that gives it a very interesting vibe. I'm not saying that it's better than European black metal, but I think it's more interesting. So we wanted to sound like that, and all the bands that we like are American, but of course there are also some European acts that inspired us. But I would say that all the scenes that we do like very much are from United States.
How soon after you formed did you record your first album?
All the albums we made has been like composed in a separate way. I mean, we all create music not together. So when we have a number of songs that we hear and that we rehearse on, we know that we are ready to create an album. So it's been like a natural process. We had some songs composed by me, some other songs composed by the guitar players, and they all sounded the same. So we just created some more stuff in that mood, and then we realized we were ready to create a new album. I don't know if it makes sense, because it's not a really common way of making music for bands. They usually create stuff together in the same room, but we need inspiration, and we usually compose the stuff in a separate way.
And so are the songs completed before you guys play them together?
Kind of, yeah. I would say yes, because the drafts were already completed, but of course we rearrange for the whole band together, so kind of.
So originally the band was known as Seventh Genocide. Can you tell me a little bit about the concept behind the band name?
Okay. Well, actually, we just went for this type of writing the name because we have not really changed the name. I mean, the complete name is still Seventh Genocide, but I think Seventh written in that way, SVNTH, is more describes better the music that we do. But the concept and the name are still the same. So the Seventh Genocide is inspired by a book which is called Century of Genocide, that is about the six genocides of the last century that has been the more brutal genocides. So the seventh is like a metaphor to describe the whole process of destroying the world with modern capitalism that man is doing right now.
So in hearing the concept behind your band name, and also hearing you say that you're more attracted to the American style of black metal, one of the things that strikes me about the difference between American black metal and European black metal is that European black metal tends to be very fantasy-based, or they take their themes from mythology, like, you know, Viking mythology and stuff like that, whereas American bands tend to write very much about what's in their environment. Is that something that applies to Seventh Genocide as well?
Yeah, cool. Absolutely. Because the punk component in American black metal is very, very, very present. So punk has always been about, politics, but also environment in an anarcho-primitivist way. And I think that the American black metal, it's more about this, it's about finding a community in nature far from society, when maybe the European black metal was more like creating a sort of fantasy kind of, I don't know, way to describe things that are not present in the real world. I mean, I think it's more like a thing about the approach,
So do you guys tend to write more about what's happening in your day-to-day lives or about larger concepts like capitalism?
Yeah, sure. Our lyrics are not totally politics, because we used to write more about personal things and philosophy, reflection and stuff like that. But of course, our attitude is definitely punk, and it's definitely about environment. And also the attitude that we advocate, it's very close to Wolves in the Throne Room and the band I mentioned before. So like talking about nature like a shelter from all the bad things that are present in society and in reality, in capitalist society and stuff like that.
I'm curious, were you guys more from a punk rock background before you formed Seventh?
Kind of, because in our city, there is a stronger punk community than metal community. So we always went to metal shows, but we also always went to punk shows as well. And all our friends are from the punk scene, and we used to play in squads and in punk places. So I'd say that we have a strong punk background, even if we don't listen to much punk.
So on August 28th, you'll be releasing your third album, which is called Spring in Blue. What can you tell me about this album?
Oh, well, I think that this album is the best way to describe our sound compared to the other albums, since we developed a lot of shades into our music and we kind of try to give them the real approach to the music that we play. So there are always post-rock stuff, post-punk stuff, and black metal parts, but everything is more cohesive, I'd say, more organic. And we recorded it live in New York at Colin Marston's studio, Man Across the Thousand Caves, which is the place where a lot of fundamental records for us have been recorded. So, yeah, I would say this is the more mature work that we have done. I know it's weird that we say by ourselves that this is our mature work, but it is, definitely.
There definitely seems to be more of an emphasis on longer songs and more atmosphere. Was your songwriting process the same for this album as for the previous albums?
You mean if it was different?
Yeah.
Not actually. I'd say that it's different only because we listened to a lot of stuff and we decided to merge more genres into our formula. But in terms of writing itself, I don't think it is different. It's just more mature, I'd say.
Can you expand on that idea? When you say it's more mature, have you guys progressed as musicians and songwriters? And if so, how so?
Yeah, I think that it's more like we become more aware of the formula that we were presenting on our records, if it makes sense.
So with this album, you're trying to get away from the formula?
No. We are still stick at this formula, but we are more aware of the formula compared to the previous records.
I see. Okay. So as you mentioned, you recorded this album with Colin Marston in New York. First of all, when did you record this with Colin? Because New York has gone through a hell of a year this year.
Yeah, it's been recorded exactly 1 year ago.
Ah, I see. Okay. So you mentioned that Colin recorded a lot of albums that were fundamental to Seventh Genocide.
Yes.
Would you mind telling me what those albums would be?
Okay, I would say the Krellis albums, definitely. I would say the Liturgy albums that he recorded. And there are a lot of other bands like Panopticon, Wayfarer. Let me think. There are so many, False. A lot of black metal stuff from the United States has been recorded by him, Lycus, Loss. Yeah, there are so many. But I would say Krellis, Panopticon, Liturgy, Chaos are just some of the more influential, definitely.
So I've talked to a number of people who recorded with Colin. He's a very influential figure in that area, in the metal scene in that area. What was it like for you guys to work with him?
It was awesome. It was really great because first it was our first experience outside our country about recording. It was also the first time for us to record an album live. And it was absolutely great since when we were telling him how we wanted to sound, he was already aware of what we were asking for, because all the albums he recorded were an influence on us. So it was very, very easy to tell him what we wanted.
So when you say that this was the first album you recorded live, what was your previous way of recording?
Recorded all the instruments separately with the previous records.
Okay. And so was that something that you were looking forward to, recording the album live? Because that can be extremely challenging, especially for a band that writes long, epic 13-minute songs.
Yeah, in a way it is. But the feeling that we have when we play live, it's absolutely better than the feeling you get on a song that has separate instruments recorded. So we wanted to have the same mood that you feel when you watch a show that we play.
Now, was there a long rehearsal period for you guys to be able to record the album live?
Yes, absolutely. I remember we've been the whole spring and summer 2019, we were rehearsing 3 times a week or so. We were always rehearsing, I remember. Super tired after work. It's been crazy.
There also seems to be more of a sense of space on this album, space in terms of I don't know if you know what I mean, but compared to some of your earlier recordings, which were very compressed, this one is very, I don't know how else to say it, very spacious.
Yeah, I usually say that it has a strong rock feeling more than metal.
Okay.
So we wanted to capture this kind of feeling. That is also a trademark of Colin Records. You know, a lot of, if I don't consider the death metal records that has a really metal mood, all the black metal records he recorded are very, very rock in terms of sound. And that was exactly the way we wanted to sound.
Back in May, you released a video for the song Wings of the Ark.
Yes.
Which the video has a lot of footage from your time in New York. How long were you in New York, and how would you describe the experience?
Okay, we recorded the album in 1 week.
Oh, wow.
Or maybe something less. Yeah, we, like 4 days we had the full album. Yeah, we stayed in New York for a week, and then I stayed also for another week, but alone, since the other guys had to come back to Rome. So I'd say the period that we've been there for the recording has been 1 week. And we also played a show in New York.
Oh, cool. Was it at St. Vitus?
No, it was at Kingsland.
Ah, okay. Was that in Queens?
Brooklyn?
In Brooklyn, okay.
Brooklyn, yes.
So tell me a little bit about the video for Wings of the Ark. Besides being footage of your time in New York, what aspect of the song or the album do you think it represents?
Well, I think that it doesn't really represent any song in particular, but it represents the experience of the recording the song. So we wanted to have like a reportage of our experience during the recordings in New York. And I think it gives absolutely that feeling when I watch it.
So one of the things that struck me is that there's a picture of what appears to be a skyscraper on the cover of the album, and a lot of the footage in the video is of the various buildings and skyscrapers in New York. Mm-hmm. Thematically, is there a link?
No, absolutely no. And it's the first time I actually reflect on this, and no, there is no connection actually. The cover is inspired by an anime, Japanese anime from the early 2000s, which is called Digimon Tamers. That has it's known to be a teen show, but that series in particular has a lot of cyberpunk elements, sci-fi elements. And we really liked the theme of the skyscraper with this kind of red evil slime. It feels very Lovecraftian actually if you watch it. So we just wanted to capture this image, but there is no connection with New York actually, since it is supposed to be Tokyo.
was the reason why it took a year for this album to be released?
Mostly it was because we were looking for a label. So we had no label when we recorded the album, and we wanted to find a proper label for the recordings. So the research has been long. We ended up releasing it with Transcending Record, that is pretty much on the same kind of spirit in terms of post-black metal stuff, since they are releasing right now a lot of post-black metal stuff. So in a way, we found a really good label for the release, but it took a lot of time. So most of the time is because of the research of the label.
So I'm actually not familiar with Transcending Records. Can you tell me a little bit about who they are, where they're based, and maybe a little bit about the roster, the other post-black metal bands on the label?
Yeah, sure. Okay, the label, it's based near Chicago. I don't remember exactly where, but it's in Illinois. And for what I know, they previously recorded releasing a lot of death metal stuff, deathcore stuff, but later changed. And right now they are releasing a lot of experimental black metal. For example, they have released a band with Colin Marston called Rejoice the Light Has Come. They have released the Dismal Immerence, which is a atmospheric black metal band, Amiensus, and Akvan, which is a band from Iran playing experimental black metal. And they also have a lot of old bands re-releasing their albums with them. For example, they have re-released some old records of Government this year. They have released The Gathering also. So they are pretty various, I'd say. But they are looking for experimental black metal bands in this moment.
Now, up to this point, was Seventh Genocide self-releasing all your albums?
No. We had another label called Third Eye Rex from UK.
Okay.
Which was more into, I would say it's similar to Transcending for the philosophy, but they released a lot of traditional black metal also.
So how much of a factor was the fact that Transcending is based in the US?
Well, I don't know. I don't know, actually. I think that the sound and the bands they release are from US or very US sounding. So I guess for them, listening to the album was definitely a factor, but we were not looking specifically for an American label.
Cool. So Spring in Blue is the name of the new Seventh Genocide album, and it's set to be released on August 28th by Transcending Records. Tell people what the best way to order this album is.
So it can be ordered on the Transcending Records site. There is a link for the pre-order, and it will be uploaded on the day of the release on our Bandcamp as well. So our Bandcamp or Transcending Records sites.
Will there be both a physical and a digital release?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it will be released on CD, on Digisleeve CD, and on digital.
Okay, cool. No vinyl release?
No vinyl release, actually. Yeah, I really wanted to release this on vinyl, but it's a very long record, so I understand that it's a little bit hard to find a label interested to release very long records. In addition, we are a small band, so I totally understand, but I'd love to release it on vinyl, maybe in the future.
And if people want to follow Seventh Genocide online, what is the best way to find out about you guys?
You can find us on Facebook, writing Seventh Genocide or SVNTH, and on Instagram you can find us writing SVNTH _band.
So what's the situation in Italy right now? Because I was seeing some very alarming news reports, 5-6 months ago.
Well, it's quite uncertain actually, since at the beginning of summer everything was ended and people started to hang out and do all the things, go on vacation and stuff like that. But right now numbers are increasing again, but we were all expecting a second wave for the virus thing. So I would say that we don't know yet if there will be a very full second wave, but right now we have more cases compared to the beginning of summer. Of course, the situation is not like this last spring, but yeah, it's not totally safe.
Okay. I'm curious about the metal scene, you're based in Rome, right?
Yeah, sure.
I'm curious what the metal scene is like over there.
Okay, yeah. I'm on first I'd say that we are like a strange band because we are very much in the metal scene, but we are also so much in the punk scene. So we play in both, and sometimes we play. Last years we played more in the punk scene than the metal scene. But yeah, the scene it's actually good, since there are many people following metal, but people are more interested in death metal and brutal death metal more than other experimental genres. As promoters, we are also promoters beside the band. We try to host many shows with more experimental bands, since there are many bands playing all the styles, but people are still pretty much focalized on death metal. In the north of Italy, for example, there is more space for the kind of stuff that we do. Rome is pretty much death metal based.
So I should mention that a couple of the members of your band are in Bedsore.
Yeah.
Speaking of experimental metal.
Yeah, sure, but they are kind of different things, since they are both very, very experimental and death metal in the same time. So they have some people following them, but for example, many people from the metal scene are not totally okay with their soft and experimental parts, but they really love the fast parts. So they are like, I don't know how to say, but they put together more people from different scenes, following different types of music, and they have a nice follow in Rome.
So what was the reaction like when you played in New York? Because I feel like in the States, people are very open to this kind of shoegazing, almost indie-inspired black metal.
Yeah, that's correct, but that show was pretty much similar to the show that we play in Italy. There was many people also in the more experimental way of making black metal, but I was expect kind of different audience, and it was not so much different than the audience that we have in Italy. Sounds strange, but it was true.
So is there anything else you want to say?
Well, usually at the end of interviews I talked about shows, but situation is is absolutely strange these days. So we have no shows, and we really don't know when we will play shows again. So I can only say things about the album. So at the end of August it will be out, so you can find the record on Trascendi Records site. You can order it there, and you can listen to the album on YouTube, and it will be uploaded on Bandcamp as well, on our own Bandcamp.
Very cool. Thank you so much, Rodolfo.
Thank you so much for the interview.
Grazie.
Bye.
E spiace ad amici tuoi in sto vicinato che sono io. Io ti sanno dire come io saccio favore.